Welcome to Seltzer Squad, the podcast about staying sober in the city, with your hosts, Kate Sander and Jes Valentine.
Did y'all know that you can get extra Seltzer Squad content at patreon.com/Seltzer Squad?
Yeah, Kate, they can get early access to our episodes. They can get videos of us and even bonus episodes every month
That no one else gets.
No one else gets it, only our patrons. So this is truly a labor of love for us. So if you could help support us, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, we love you, Squad.
We love you, Squad.
Sign up at patreon.com/Seltzer Squad. Jess, are you listening to any good books?
Right now, I'm actually listening to an Audible exclusive podcast.
Ooh, I'm listening to Blackout by Sarah Hepola.
Oh, I listened to that one back in the day.
I mean, I'm a huge proponent of Audible. I love listening to Quit Lit or really any book. But did you know, Squad, that you can use our discount code to get a free month of Audible? Meaning you get a free book if you sign up.
That's right. Just go to audibletrial.com/Seltzer Squad and get a free month on us. I actually just signed up myself using it.
Hey, Kate.
Hi.
Hey, Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. So, first things first, I have met Anna in IRL. I've tattooed you. She's great. We follow each other on social, and someone actually tagged us in one of your posts, and it was about how you escaped a sobriety cult. So I was like, dude, we have to have you on. I'm obsessed. Kate,
You were like, dude, did you see the girl that was in the cult? And I was like, which girl? What cult? Like, can I have some more context? And then she tagged.
I didn't
She
tell
sent
her.
me the post.
I had already been DMing with you. I'm like,
Yes.
she's gonna love this.
I was
too.
like, keep me in the dark because I want to learn as we go on the pod.
Yeah, and I
Right on.
you and I have spoken when you came by the studio, briefly about that you were sober and stuff. So I figured I was hoping you'd be down to talk about it. So let's just So why don't you tell everyone who you are? If you want to tell us maybe a little bit of your sobriety story, how you got sober, and just go from there. Does that sound good?
Also, your Insta bio says formerly of the Midwestern variety. I need some elaboration on that as well in your intro.
So my name's Anna. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, photographer in New York, but I am originally from Missouri.
Okay.
I grew up in Missouri and all that, so I've only been in New York for a year and a half. But so my sobriety journey, I got sober in 2016 via a sobriety cult.
Yeah.
But before then, I went to college, and it was a classic case of college party girl. So I partied a lot, was at frat houses all the time, didn't go to class, got kicked out of school a couple times. And just for me, using was just to escape any feeling at all. I just didn't like feelings. Still not a big fan. But I didn't want to feel anything. And so that was the main way for me to cope with all that. I drank, I was addicted to opiates, I abused Adderall, I abused Xanax. I was a major pill popper, whatever you want to call it, because those were really easy for me to get. I have a lot of joint issues, so I could just go to any doctor and say, ouchies, I'm in pain. And they'd be like, yeah, looks like it from XYZ or whatever. So, that's kind of what I did for, I'd say 2011 to 2016.
Okay.
And I kind of had a downward spiral in 2016 after New Year's, after getting roofied at a bar in town. And so it kind of just spiraled out of control. I was using all the time. My therapist was trying to get me to get sober, and I was convinced there was nothing wrong. And I was waking up and getting high, and going to class, and I had an Altoid container of all the pills that I had, and I would just sit in the back of my class and do drugs.
Oh my God.
Which is insane.
It's insane, but insanely relatable also, because
Yeah.
I think it's like I don't want to say who didn't have like a tin of pills, but I just feel like it was such a coping mechanism of like managing your day as well as mitigating a hangover all the time.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like I couldn't manage my day at all. So I had been toying with the idea of getting sober. I tried getting sober in and I just like could not swing it. Like it just wasn't like structured enough for me. I needed more intensive care.
Sure.
And I like stopped drinking, but I was like still doing drugs, but I convinced myself that I was sober and that I was fine. Because
did
I
that
wasn't
move.
drinking.
I did that move.
I
Yeah.
was like, it counts. I'm not drinking.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Someone once said to me at a bar, they're like, I thought you were sober. I'm like, do you see a drink in my hand? I'm like, you're doing lines of Coke under the bar. I'm like, not drinking, sober. Anyway.
Exactly.
Right?
Literally.
Yeah.
though.
We justify
That's literally
it.
Me. And so the big kind of downfall is I drove from St. Louis to Columbia, Missouri, which is about a 2-hour drive, under the influence of who knows what.
Mm-hmm.
Very dangerous. Do not recommend.
Do you remember it? Oh, scary.
I barely remember it. I didn't get pulled over. I didn't get in a car accident by some miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving to my therapist appointment. I was 40 minutes late.
Oh,
I do remember calling her and being like, "Hey girl, I'm
fucked up.
gonna be really late. I'm driving from St. Louis. I'm gonna be late." I didn't tell her I was under the influence, but I showed up and she just had this look of like complete terror on her face. Like I will
I'm
never
sure.
forget it. It's forever ingrained in my brain. And she was just like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No." Thankfully, because I was probably like overdosing on something, in all honesty, like looking back at it. But she said, "Okay, here's a bunch of pamphlets. Go downstairs, pick one out, call them, make an appointment.
Wait,
come back
pause.
in an hour."
What do you think was different about you saying, no, I'm not okay, versus like masking and saying like, what are you talking about? I'm fine.
I think I was finally tired of pretending. And I think that was an extreme enough scenario where I was like, okay, like I'm putting my life at risk.
Got it.
I'm putting others' lives at risk. Like before, like I just kind of didn't care because it was like minimal consequences.
Sure.
But I think that was a big enough thing. Like I did so many different drugs at once. I drank, it was a lot. It was just, finally I was like, this is exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just tired.
Yeah.
So yeah, she handed me pamphlets and said, pick one and come back in an hour after you've picked a rehab to go to.
Oh, wow.
And yeah.
What'd you do?
And
Just like close your eyes and like pick one out?
I called all of them. I went down to my car and called them all. And I picked this treatment center because I knew a couple people who had gone through it and they didn't require detox. And for whatever reason, I didn't want to go to detox.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you why, but for some reason, I think to me that meant like it was a bigger problem if I had to go to detox.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go inpatient.
Mm-hmm.
And up until this point, like my family didn't know I had a problem, nothing. So I chose the program. It's called the Crossroads program in Missouri. We'll get a little bit into that because they're kind of sprinkled throughout the United States.
Oh.
But yeah. And I remember I had to call my mom and tell her I needed to go to treatment. And she was in Greece.
Okay.
Flying home. And I made it a point to call her when I knew she was at the airport because I was like, she can't make a scene at the airport, so she can't yell at me.
And then she's forced to think about it for the entire plane ride home alone, which is a little torturous, TBH.
Luckily, she was already in America.
Okay, got it.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
By that point, I didn't make her think about it the whole trip to Greece.
Encapsulated with a bunch of other strangers.
So I called her and I went to treatment. That next day, I had my appointment for treatment. And it was crazy. It was an intensive outpatient treatment program.
Which means, what does outpatient mean for those who don't know? Because I'm not also 100% clear on in versus out.
So outpatient meant that I lived in my own home. I didn't live in a facility. And it was intensive outpatient. So I was there from 1 to 5 every weekday.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Doing group therapy.
So you're not in school at this
Therapy.
point. You're not working.
I was in school.
Okay.
And
I was going to say, how do
working.
you like manage that? But I guess you have to prioritize.
So I actually like signed a contract when I joined saying that I would drop out of school.
What?
But I didn't drop out. I said no and kept going to school.
Okay.
What
But
the
most people
fuck?
did drop out of school.
That's
I mean, I understand that on one hand because they want you to focus. Like,
yeah, but
I mean, I don't know if I'd sign a contract saying I'm dropping out of other things in my life, but I feel like if they're like, you really need to prioritize that, I understand people needing to like leave their jobs for a bit. Like that,
I mean,
I
get.
did leave my job.
Yeah.
I understand like having to focus on your recovery, but I mean, Scientology also makes you sign a billion-year
But I
contract.
mean, at this
like,
point,
that's not right.
she doesn't know it's a cult. So I feel like in
I
my own thought
know.
process, I wouldn't think that wouldn't flag me yet.
I'm just saying
I'm not
that
red
that's-
flagged yet.
I'm just saying that's like fucked when you think about it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, when you're in it, you're in it.
Sure.
But right now, I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like, that's so fucked up. But anyway,
Yeah, and I only found out that I signed that because I recently got all my paperwork
Got
from them.
it.
I didn't realize that I had signed that. Are you kidding? I wasn't reading what I was signing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like clicked
I
the
was
user
like-
agreement. You were like, agree, obviously. Let me in.
Yeah, I was like day 2 coming off like drugs. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? But yeah, so when I joined, there were some stipulations. I couldn't take any medication, any mind-altering substances, and I was on medication for depression and anxiety. I had to go off those.
Cold turkey?
Huh?
Fuck,
Oh.
that's so dangerous.
Yeah, and my first, like, they had these things called functions, which were just like group activities. My first function was a camping trip for like
So
3 days and
random.
2 nights.
Okay.
And so, like, I literally started the camping trip like with 3 days sober or something stupid.
Oh.
And so I was like withdrawing in the woods from
my God,
all
yeah.
the drugs I had been doing
That's not funny, but
and my medication.
right.
No medical professionals, no cell service.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Me in the
no.
woods with like 300 people I didn't know.
Oh my God, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. So it
was
it
this
a
religious?
Missouri-wide function.
Was it religious at all?
No, not. It's religious in the way that like AA is religious.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That's what I was just curious. Like,
Like, was
Yeah,
everyone
so it's-
speaking in tongues? This is weird.
all right.
Yeah.
It's based off the 12 steps.
Sure.
Okay.
They aren't the same 12 steps. They took some out, added some of their own, but it is still 12 steps.
Okay.
Okay.
Kind of. So yeah, my first function was a camp out. Awful. And I'm like already not a camping person. Like anyone who knows me who hears I went camping, they're like, oh, how'd that work out for you?
Mhm.
It didn't. I slept in my car with the air conditioning on.
Right.
So then I got back and immediately started outpatient. And I went to school while I was an outpatient. So I'd go to class from 8:30 to 12:30. I convinced my teacher to let me leave class early, and then I'd speed to treatment from 1 to 5.
Oh my God.
And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we would have like 12-step AA style meetings
Mhm.
that we had to go to. And then Fridays and Saturdays, we would have what were called functions, which were just ways to show like you can have fun in sobriety.
Okay.
Which, like, the bare bones basis of the program, I've always said this, is a brilliant idea. Its execution, very poor.
Sure.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not hearing any
so-
issues aside from the make you quit your work
Yet.
Well,
and
we'll
cold
get
turkey
there.
medication
She's
withdrawal.
gonna get there.
Right, of course. But I'm
Yeah,
like,
that-
I'm
yeah.
processing this as
I
she's
know.
telling the story. Like, I too would be like, okay, yeah, sign
Right.
me up. This makes sense.
That's the thing with cults, though.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah, you're like, cute, fun, love it.
Yeah.
yeah,
sounds
I want the
great.
t-shirt. Yeah.
And like Friday nights, we would go to somebody's parents' house and do a potluck.
Okay.
And then Saturday nights, we'd like do whatever. Like one time we did like a Harry Potter weekend where we
Okay.
got sorted into houses and played Quidditch.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yes.
Like,
kind of awesome.
So like really like absurdly like fun things.
Sure.
Right. So pretty much all your time was taken up by the group. But it and that's the thing, like very quickly it became very apparent that you were not to hang out with anybody who wasn't associated.
Mm.
They wanted me to change my phone number.
What? Wow.
Mm,
So
do you think
disconnect.
that's though from like, well, hold
Mhm.
on. From a recovery standpoint, do you think that's because like your phone is full of drug dealers? In theory.
So that's
I
what
mean,
they
That's what they say,
said,
probably.
but also like they wanted you to not talk to anyone who wasn't.
Yeah, they're trying to
sober.
isolate you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what cults
Of course.
do.
And that's the other thing I signed in my contract. It says, like, will not talk to anyone who is not sober.
Wow.
Whoa.
Like, I signed that in my contract.
Oh my God.
I feel like I
Um,
signed that in my head
yeah.
recently.
So that's
Just
like
kidding.
basically like, I'm not going to talk to my family. I'm
Yeah.
not going to talk to my friends. Like
For
that's
some people, they were encouraged to like drop their families, and some families were
Wow.
encouraged to ship their kid off to someone else's house in a different state or stuff like that. I was encouraged to live with other people, but I already had an apartment, so I said, I already signed a lease. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Anna, how old were you when you went into this, by the way?
I was 23.
Okay.
And do they have like an age group or?
Yeah, did you have peers?
So the youngest I ever heard of was like 12.
Okay.
Holy shit. Okay.
And the oldest was like 25.
Oh, weird. So they do
Interesting.
target your age group,
Yeah,
probably.
when you're
Yeah.
vulnerable. Yeah.
It's described, like if you look at their websites, it's
Mhm.
described as an enthusiastic sobriety program for young people and their families.
Wow.
Because
This
there's the
is
parent portion.
so
they,
interesting.
They have parent meetings to
Oh, okay.
convince the parents to let you do all these things. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean,
Masked as like an Al-Anon type situation.
yeah.
But they're really like, you need to like give
Also
them
join our cult.
space
Yeah.
to like grow in their sobriety and oh my God.
But it was more like their biggest thing was instilling fear.
Mhm.
So very early on, they told parents that the kids needed to be there. They were going to die without the program. And it was told to us too. Like I was told, like if I ever left, like I wasn't going to stay sober. I was going to, put a needle in my arm and die or, whatever the hell they would tell me. They would tell me anything to stay. And when I eventually left, they like tried really hard to get me to stay by like spinning all of that, calling my mom and telling her all these lies about
Oh my God.
who knows what and stuff like that. It was crazy. But yeah, so all your time is supposed to be consumed by the group and you're only supposed to talk to them. I had friends outside of the group. I was in a sorority. They didn't like that I was in a sorority, so I just like didn't really talk to them about it. They didn't want me to continue to see my therapist.
What?
Mhm.
The one
Everybody
who told you about them?
Yeah. Because they present themselves to the mental health community the way I like initially presented it, which like, oh, sounds great. Teaches like young people to be excited about sobriety. Like we love that. But because they forced everyone to stop seeing their therapist, no one ever went back and told their therapist.
Right,
what had
exactly.
happened.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So no one knew.
So no one knew. So I lied and kept seeing my therapist.
Got it.
Because
I love this like secret life of
such a
the
rebel.
American cult member. She's like, I have a
Yeah.
job. I live
had a home.
alone.
Went to school.
I'm sorry. I ate
That's
dinner
an
with my
assorted-
parents last night.
No, but good because like, ugh.
Well, and that's what saved me. And I was only in there for 8 months, and that's why I was able to get out as quickly as I did, because I kind of had one foot out.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
when did it start to become apparent to you that like things were not right? Like what sort of snapped you?
Red flags.
Probably after like 2 months.
Okay.
What was it? Was it any certain thing that was like, wait a minute?
Not really. It was mostly like all the stuff like I wasn't allowed to see a therapist, all that. But then also just I was getting a degree in psychology, and just
Oh.
like their way of trying to get me to talk in outpatient was really bizarre. And it was like psychological torture. They would just like shame me and berate me and just like really dig until I finally would like be vulnerable enough for them, which like by any other standard, like if I would have been in any other treatment program, I was being plenty vulnerable.
Sure.
But I remember like one time it was in my treatment plan to talk to another kid in the group about vulnerability, and he like locked me in his car. We drove to a bonfire and he wouldn't let me get out of the car until I was like vulnerable enough.
Like by this
What?
person's standards, like this by
Yeah.
Chad's standards.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
What the fuck?
That's
And, like,
kidnapping.
that was encouraged.
That's camping? Is that what you
Like,
said?
low-key
Kidnapping.
kind of
Oh, I
kidnapping.
said, is that called camping?
No, that's kidnapping.
That is kidnapping.
Oh my
Yes.
God. And you said
Yeah,
that did
and-
they take like blackmail material from you and stuff like that? in
Yeah,
a
so
way?
they just encourage you to like tell your deepest, darkest secrets. And then, you tell them and then you're like shamed for them immediately. Like I was a self-harmer at the time. And so like they would like force me to be honest about it. And so I would and like admit to like utilizing that coping skill. And then they just like shame me, like, why would you do that? Only people who hate themselves do that. Like, like really mean stuff. So like that was their way of like getting me to do stuff. They'd even resort to just like poking me on the shoulder and saying, be vulnerable over and over and over again until I would finally just like give up because I was like, this is annoying.
Those are also like really big concepts that you can't just like poke someone on the shoulder and be like, be authentic, be vulnerable. You know what I mean? These are like really lifelong commitments to like learn over your whole life. That it's funny to like, as 23, if someone was like, be authentic, I'd be like, what the fuck? Yeah. What even is that?
Over and over, you just obviously like, they break you down.
Totally.
And you're like, all right, I surrender.
I'm telling the truth.
I was like called a robot. They like went as far as they bought like a watering can from Home Depot and spray painted it silver and wrote like Anna's oil can. Whoa. And said that I was like being robotic, and anytime I wouldn't be emotional, they'd like pretend to like oil me up so that I would like be vulnerable. It was bizarre.
Did everyone have a watering can?
No, just me.
Like I'm imagining a shelf with everyone's little cans lined up.
Someone was like, I know what, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to get a watering can.
This is a good exercise.
Like a lot of fucking thought and like time went into like hurting someone.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I can still imagine these being like therapy exercises that were like just not executed properly. Like they went a little too far.
So were the people that were running the program, were they like your peers? Were they older?
And did they have a clinical background?
Okay. So background of the Crossroads program and all of its extended programs is it was started by a man named Bob Meehan in the 70s.
Okay.
In Texas.
Okay.
He was a janitor at a church, and the priest was like, hey, we have a bunch of kids that need help. Will you help them? And he was sober, and so he taught these kids to get sober.
Okay.
Whatever. So they started the Palmer Drug Abuse Program. Actually, fun fact, Carol Burnett's daughter went through that program.
Okay.
Interesting.
And so it was quickly found out, though, that he was kind of like a schemer and arrogant. There was like a 60-minute piece on him that really painted him as like this awful person. And so Palmer Drug Abuse cut ties with him and stopped using his practice.
Bob, right? Bob the janitor? Okay, got it.
And so Bob Meehan then sprung up in San Diego.
Got it.
And created the same program.
Just different
called
name.
Freeway.
Okay.
And didn't have any licensing. California found out. And so they shut him down, and he tried to get licensed, and they were like, hell no, like we're not giving you licensing. So then it came back up, but he gave the program to someone else who had gone through his program previously.
Got it.
Okay.
So that's how there's different owners in different states. So it's Missouri, Arizona, Denver, Colorado, Atlanta, North Carolina. They're trying to expand to Tampa, Florida, and Sacramento, I believe.
Do they all have different names to kind of guise themselves?
They all have different names, and they all have different owners.
Wow.
It's a franchise.
Yeah, right?
And everyone, in order to work for the organization, you have to have gone through the program.
Wait, it's an MLM?
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of a pyramid scheme.
It's a recovery MLM.
What's
recovery
MLM?
It's like the Avon lady, like the essential oil
so
people.
A pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
You sign up and then sign up other people to work for you.
Yeah. So you can't be a counselor unless you had gone through the program. And so like when people are 18, they're chosen to go to counselor training or however old they are. So like my counselor at the time was 25 and I was 23.
Whoa.
And he like went to counselor training, and you're
seems
trained
so
by...
predatory.
Wait, I'm sorry, how old was he?
25 and she was 23.
25.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
And they get trained at the Bob Meehan Institute, which is like fake.
Yeah.
And I don't think most of them had like substance abuse counselor licensing unless they were running outpatient.
Okay.
So there were there were the head counselors and the counselors that ran outpatients. They had actual state accreditation.
Got it.
All the other counselors just had like Bob Meehan's certificate.
Institute.
Got it.
Oh
Okay,
my
got it.
God. And
Yeah.
did they only do outpatient or did they also do inpatient?
So they mostly only did outpatient. There were 2 inpatient places called Step 2, which was based after their version of the second step, which was stick with sober winners in order to grow, which basically meant stick with the group and only the group.
Oh, you know what? I feel like I heard about, well, okay. When I was telling Kate a little bit about your story last night, and then I went to your Instagram, and then you have, you had linked to, I forget the actual name, but it's other abuse. What is the Instagram I'm thinking of?
Enthusiastic sobriety abuse.
Yes. And then I was clicked on that. I went like in a hole, obviously. And then I kept
Yeah.
seeing the words like step 2, step 2. I think there was like a guy whose like face was like tattooed all black or something.
Yeah.
So that's,
It was like paint.
oh,
believe.
okay. Okay. I was very confused by that. So I clicked on that and I kept seeing the word step 2. So, okay. So
That's a program.
So
Got
that's
it.
the program.
inpatient.
Okay.
That's the inpatient program. And it's basically for people who won't fully give in to the brainwashing so that they can even more effectively seclude them.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, that's a
Mhm.
better way to just isolate them.
Ultimate isolation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck.
they tried. My mom said they tried to get me to go, and my mom was like, absolutely not. I'm not paying like $15,000 for her to go
Sure.
Yeah. Thank God.
smoke cigarettes in Arizona.
Right. It's amazing.
That's a vibe that I actually kind of want.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they use cigarettes as like a coping technique.
Sure.
So like you had like 14-year-olds that were smoking cigarettes, and
They're like, here.
That would've
do
fit
this.
right in.
yeah, they would like yell at me for not buying them for minors, and I was like,
What?
No, thank you. I'd rather not get arrested.
Oh my, what the fuck? Okay, so
How'd you escape the cult?
yeah, please.
How did I escape the cult? Well,
And when you
So-
sort of had these realizations, were you like, this is a cult, or did you just kind of identify that this isn't okay and you need to like
it
excuse
was
yourself?
More that like this is unethical.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Funnily enough, my first day in outpatient, they said, people are gonna say this is a cult and they're lying.
Oh my God.
Here's why it's not a cult. There may or may not be a documentary that was made about us.
Wait,
but,
really?
Like, don't watch it. Yeah.
Oh my God, what's it called?
If you just like YouTube the group documentary,
Okay.
Oh my
it was made by
God.
someone in the group. Yeah.
I know what I'm doing
But, like,
tonight.
Yeah, I
literally
know
was
what we're
like,
doing tonight, guys.
yeah, they were like, don't watch it. It's not real. It's just like a disgruntled ex-member, because any member who
my
left the group was cut off completely.
Sure.
So I more realized it was like unethical than a cult. The cult came like much later.
Yeah.
But so I left because I started in July of 2016, and in January of 2017, I had attended a young people's conference and got the flu.
Mm-hmm.
So fun. It spread through the entire conference like wildfire. So I was so sick. Like I was developing like pneumonia from it. And so I went to the urgent care and they're like, dude, you have to take cough medicine because otherwise like you're
Oh,
not
but you weren't
sleeping.
allowed to though,
Mm.
right?
I wasn't allowed to.
Oh.
But I called my mom and we like had a long discussion about it. And she was like, just take it. Like, whatever.
So at this
like,
point, though,
you're fine.
how long had you been in sobriety?
8 months.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So I took the cough medicine, did not tell anyone in the group,
It's so crazy. Like, anyway.
told nobody. And then in April, so I guess I didn't have 8 months. Well, I don't know. What's 6 months? I guess
It's about
in
6
January.
months. Yeah.
In April, a friend was watching my cat when I was out of town, and they found cough medicine in my cabinet because I
Oh,
didn't take all of
no.
it. I'm such a wuss with like liquid medication.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
took like one dose and I was like, I'm out. It's not it. It's not worth
Mhm.
it.
Wait.
It made me well enough to
Sorry.
Feel
Just
that-
rewinding a little bit. They went through your shit.
Was it
This
harmless or was it like,
it was harmless. Like
Oh, okay.
it was a friend who used to
From-
be in the
from
in the
treatment?
program.
Oh, okay. That's what I was
She
curious.
used to be
Yeah.
in the program but wasn't anymore.
Oh,
and
okay.
she wanted to like be nice and clean my house for me.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But she found the medication, freaked out,
Full
didn't know
stop.
what to do, called someone who was actively in the group.
ooh,
Oh, no.
instead of calling me,
Well,
called
yeah.
someone who was actively in the group. He called the head counselor.
Oh my God.
Unbeknownst to me that this is happening, when I get home, she tells me like what happened, and I'm like, well, crap. And then at the function that night, I get interrogated
Oh no.
by the head counselor for like 45 minutes. And it's basically a circle of like, you're getting high, like you've been getting high this whole time, like you can't be trusted, you need to go to outpatient, like you're not working a program, da 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 da. And it was just me saying, like, that's not true. I've been sober this whole time. Like I was just really sick. And it was 45 minutes of that. And I was just like, I cannot stand here anymore and like take it. So I grabbed my stuff and left. Immediately I was bombarded with phone calls from group members.
Oh wait, did you end up changing your phone number or no?
No.
Okay. Good.
Immediately was like bombarded with phone calls from people saying like, where'd you go, like you're not being a part of, like you're not like helping the group, like da 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 da. Why didn't you tell us, like you should have ran taking medication through us first, you should have run leaving the function through us first, you didn't tell anybody, all that. And I just like was like, I can't like talk to you guys right now. I call my mom, tell her what happened. We get off the phone, someone else calls to yell at me. And while that's happening, the head counselor then calls my mom and says, your daughter's been lying to you this whole time. She's been getting high. She's just trying to leave the group so she can get effed up again. Like she just wants to do drugs and she's trying to swindle you.
Oh my God.
Whatever. So then my mom calls me crying.
Oh.
I'm sure she was upset.
Yeah. And she's like, is this true? And I had to like convince her that it wasn't true.
Oh, God.
And so then that Monday I go into the office and officially like say like, I'm leaving. Like I got what I needed. I'm not going to stay.
Yeah.
Because outpatient is 4 months. Then you do aftercare for 2 months. But then you are encouraged to stay in the program for about 2 years.
Okay.
As a support group member. So yeah, so I was interrogated for about 2 more hours by the head counselor and my outpatient counselor. They tried to guilt me into staying. They tried to tell me that I wasn't going to stay sober, that I was going to die. You know, they tried everything they could. And eventually I said, like, I just can't do it anymore. I got up and there were a bunch of my peers out in the like waiting area waiting to see what happened. And I said, I'm officially leaving. We call it bailing.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just call it leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'm
Can't just,
bailing.
you
because
can't graduate. You just have to bail. Yeah.
You do graduate, but
Okay,
I didn't
got it.
graduate. And the coldness I was met with is like indescribable.
No, I believe it.
No hugs, goodbye, nothing. And then they completely dropped me. I never heard from any of them after
Wow.
No other defectors
So-
later on?
that. No, because the group I was a part of closed down.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
They couldn't get any more new recruits. And
Good.
so they shut it down. It's still active in St. Louis and Kansas City, but the Columbia, Missouri group closed.
Okay.
Holy shit. This is so crazy.
Wait, so have you connected with people from other areas?
Yes. And people I was in treatment with, I've connected with since.
Sure.
You know, they've left. Everyone, we call it like their awakening.
Mm-hmm.
But so I met a bunch of people through a Facebook group of like ex-members. There's, I think, almost 600 of us
Wow.
in this Facebook group from all the different areas. And we've kind of, you know, formulated a coalition, so to speak.
Yeah.
And a group of them spoke to like a North Carolina article or a paper, and there was a big article about it, which apparently is making the Atlanta, North Carolina area sweat a little bit. And so then we created a website and the social media accounts to try and like provide resources for people who are coming to terms with the fact that they were like in a cult, and not just for us. There's like a bunch of sobriety cults out there, which is really disappointing. But yeah, it's been wild, but it's been really therapeutic because I like thought I was like over the whole being in a cult thing, but I've kind of discovered that it's not something that kind of leaves you at all. Like there's still things I do in my day-to-day life that are like a residual.
Sure. I mean, That only makes sense.
I feel like it probably has to make you question question yourself in a lot of ways. Like,
Yeah, I can't
is this
make a
my
decision?
decision?
At all.
Yeah, I'm like, is this my decision or something that I was conditioned to think?
Yeah, my girlfriend gets so annoyed with me because I can't even like pick where to eat because I get so like stressed out about making a decision because I like
You're not. Yeah, you probably weren't allowed to.
I had to run everything through this group of people.
When Jess originally told me like the broad strokes of the cult and this whole situation, it reminded me of the Paris Hilton documentary. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like where she realized that like she was essentially trapped and part of like this abusive cult like circle. And then I was like, was it the same one? Because I was excited to hear. But I bet that is sort of the similar experience when you start connecting with other people and you're able to start putting the pieces together. Like, oh, wow. Like I thought I was the only one who kind of thought this was weird. And then sort of, I'm glad that you have a Facebook group because you're able to seek support and sort of support one another also.
Like, I thought that I was like being dramatic and like.
Yeah, I'm sure they gaslit you.
Oh, so much. So much. But, you know, everything was our faults and we were unhappy because of us and no other circumstances. They used to always say something like, there's no victims, only volunteers was like one of their favorite phrases.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
And so I still had that mentality for a long time. But once I like connected with a bunch of people, I was like, oh, I'm not crazy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, before this kind of looking up there's like a model to like understand if you were in a cult or not. It's called the BITE model.
The BITE model?
It's like,
okay.
So it's like behavior control, emotional control, information control, and like thought control.
Okay.
It spells out BITE. And I was like reading it and I checked off 13 out of the 16 they had listed.
Holy shit. This is
okay. So
bananas.
You break up with them, they ghost you. Where does that leave your recovery?
So it was really hard to adjust. Luckily, I had made connections in AA before I joined the program. So I immediately contacted those people.
Good.
And there was like a general community awareness of Crossroads within the local AA community. So I had told them and I had left Crossroads and they kind of had this understanding that I needed support. So like the day I left, I immediately went to this friend's house and she had a bunch of friends in the program over and they just like really kind of made sure that I had solid sober friends to like get through it. It also really helped. I had my sorority, I had my college friends, you know, I had my mom was a big support and I was still in therapy. I had continued to see my therapist the whole time. So I just like had to really make sure that I was set up to stay sober because I didn't want to prove them right because they were telling everybody that I was going to relapse.
Sure.
And
this is like a maybe controversial, but like question. But some people think that AA is a little culty. Do you see any like, obviously it's on a completely different level, but do you see any like things that could be construed as cult-like on a smaller scale?
So in my experience, no. And I think part of that is because I was like in an actual sobriety cult.
Yeah.
But the thing I'll say is that there are some AA groups that I've heard of that are a little more culty than others.
Sure. I guess that's like with everything though.
Yeah. Like over here, it's called the Atlantic group, I think, is pretty known. But, you know, so there are some more than others. But I will say the major difference is you have free will. No one's holding anything over you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, they say keep coming back. It's not like or else.
Sign a contract.
Yeah. So you have free will. You know, it can feel a little culty at times, especially if you're I personally, if like I do go to meetings, like I try to go to meetings with like a diverse population.
Yeah.
If you go to some where it's just all people with 40 years plus, it's a little more narrow-minded.
Yeah, they're a little more dogmatic. Yeah.
The ones that are a little more religious, I feel like feel the more cult, like, because I've also done like Blair, I think it was, or something. It's like Bear. It's like Brooklyn artists, like that.
Oh yeah.
I've done that one. I think it's called like ABC or whatever. It's like the gay one in Williamsburg. You know, I've done those, and those didn't feel like that at all. It was very different. So Yeah, I guess that makes it's hard to say. It's just like that's like saying is chili spicy. It's like, well, I don't know. Like what's in
Yeah,
it?
true.
Yeah, so I can see where people get that, but it's so minimal, and at the end of the day, it's nobody's responsible for your recovery.
Mhm.
No one's keeping tabs on you. No one is forcing you to do anything. Like I was in the sobriety treatment cult, I was policed so much.
Mhm.
Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say if
Yeah.
Because it is
somebody, no
happening
one
in
would
AA,
call
then
no one would call the chair of
Yeah.
a meeting and say like she had cough syrup in her closet, you know?
right.
Oh
Yeah.
my-
And
yeah,
if
I
that
was
is
just
happening,
wondering,
because I'm
like,
sure people are like that, just
yeah,
Sure.
have a different
next,
meeting.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just curious because, you hear that every now and then. So coming
Mhm.
out of an actual sobriety cult, I wonder if there was anything that would happen in any AA meetings that you've been to that were like triggering. But I guess,
Yes.
oh, there have been. Okay.
It's only happened a couple times. And for a while, I had a distrust. I went through like a burst of having distrust of 12-step programs
Mhm.
as a result of leaving the cult. But we had a lot of therapy to kind of like get over that. But if I smell certain cigarettes at a meeting,
Oh.
Oh, wow.
I was at an outdoor meeting this summer because of whatever is happening in the world, and someone like lit a certain type of cigarette, and I just
Like, nope.
had I had like an internal meltdown. I had to like
Aw.
leave. And I'm like in Central Park. I had to like leave, and like I had to call someone who was like formerly in the cult so I could be like, I had this really weird experience. So that's happened. And then a couple other times at a few meetings, they're structured in a way that's very similar to how the cult was structured. And I had to like leave. Luckily on Zoom, you can just like
Leave.
the meeting.
Which is
And you
kind of
don't have to
nice.
like get up and walk out.
True.
But there was one where like people spoke on other people's behalf for their anniversary. And I like couldn't do that because when you were in outpatient, you had to make amends to your family in front of all of outpatient.
In
Oh,
front of
wow.
people?
Uh-huh.
Oh. Oh, no.
And then people spoke on your behalf to like prove to your parents that you've really changed.
Oh,
And
Wow.
so I couldn't do that.
yeah. Oh, wow. This is so interesting.
Hey, Nat, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Squad, I had Nat come to help me to talk about our new sponsor, Brainwashed Coffee. The mission of Brainwashed Coffee is to offer support to those struggling with addiction and inspire others to join the fight.
Sounds awesome.
They donate 50% of all the proceeds to addiction recovery. On their site, they're also extending a discount to the Seltzer Squad listeners of 20%. I am trying out the Guatemala Ethiopia blend and the Colombian decaf because I'm a half calf type of girl, and I can't wait to use my Brainwashed Coffee to start making lattes. So order yourself some Brainwashed Coffee. It's brainwashedcoffeeco.com. Use code Seltzer Squad for 20% off at checkout.
Jess, what's our number one piece of advice when people are getting sober?
Therapy.
Therapy. So much therapy that I'm going to school to be a giver of therapy.
This is true.
BetterHelp reached out to partner with us at the Seltzer Squad to offer 10% off a monthly membership to BetterHelp.com.
What is BetterHelp.com?
BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that is for individuals, for couples. You take a short quiz, you get matched up with a mental health professional, and you, through the app, are able to video, or you can just message back and forth with a licensed professional to give you counseling and guidance on anything and everything that you're going through.
So how do our listeners use our code?
You just go to betterhelp.com/Seltzer Squad and you'll receive 10% off your first month.
Wait, so where are you at now, like in this whole process? Where's your head at today?
It goes in waves. There's a lot ever since connecting to people. There's a lot that's come up that I'm working through in therapy, and it's nice working with a therapist who like has no concept of these programs at all. Like,
Sure.
Okay, so it's a
It's
different
almost like-
therapist.
yeah, it's almost like a fun game I can play where I'm like, how much can I shock her today with cult stories?
With like unethical business practices that I was, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Because people were encouraged to date each other in the program, and if a girl didn't want to go out with a guy that asked her out, they were still told like, well, you should still go because he needs practice.
Oh
Just
my
stuff like that.
God.
Like They all dated each other. It
fuck?
was really weird.
Oh
Like
my God.
everyone was in a relationship with each other. Like I remember, so you date like after a year of sobriety, and I never hit a year in the group. But I remember like because I left at 8 months, I was like thinking like,
Oh, who am I gonna date?
who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I'm like, I'm queer. So there were no queer people
Right.
because so the group I was in didn't really like have much to say about queerness, but a lot of the other groups did. I've heard people say like, they've gone through conversion therapy. I've heard people, yeah, I don't know how true any of that is because I didn't experience
Yeah.
it.
I
and
wonder
don't wanna
if you
get
hit a
sued
year.
for claiming it, but
I'm curious, like, if you hit a year, if they would try to get you to like date a dude. Just
That's a good point.
Just
no
like
idea.
see if you like it. You
Yeah.
know? You're like, I know I don't like dick, but okay. But you never
I have
know.
no-
Like, I don't know. This
I
is
have no idea.
so crazy. I feel like
Yeah.
we could talk like another 3 hours, but we should
So
like
if
let
somebody
her go.
is like, maybe if somebody that's listening has gone through one of these programs, what would you recommend? A, if they're still in it, and B, if they're sort of having that realization that like, oh fuck, I was a part of this. Where would we
Right.
point them?
So the best things I can say for anyone who's been in either the enthusiastic sobriety programs or something similar, I know there's a couple other similar ones. Find a good support system before you defect if you can. Set yourself up with therapy, a support group,
Get a
anything
third
like
phone
that.
number.
And also our organization that we've kind of created out of all this mess, Enthusiastic Sobriety Abuse, we have some resources on our website.
Okay.
So it's enthusiasticsobrietyabuse.com, I believe.
Okay.
So people can go there and try and find some resources. There are like therapists out there who specialize in cult recovery.
I want to take
specialize
that
in leaving
bite
cults.
test is interesting.
Why were you in a cult?
No, I was not, but no, I don't want to like deter
Okay,
too
yeah,
much,
no.
but for my apprenticeship under my old
Okay,
boss,
yeah.
there was a lot of I think tactics that were used where
Gotcha.
I was very, very,
Like
very, very
brainwashing tactics.
We can bite that out later.
yeah, things that were like very
I would agree.
unethical, and I thought I was led to believe were like this is normal, like this is how you proceed to the next step, and I did a lot of it.
Yeah.
It was like emotional abuse, but when I was talking to my therapist about it recently, I'm like, I'd like to talk about something that happened. Like it was 5 years of grooming, and I was like, I finally left, and everyone's like, when I tell stories, I'm like, they're like, that is not normal. Like that should not have happened, Like I was even dumb shit. Like I wasn't allowed to go to my sister's like sweet 16, like just dumb shit.
Yeah.
I had to like live and breathe like my shop and my mentor, so to speak. And it was just, stuff happened that shouldn't have happened. But my point was when I explained things and people were like, I don't understand how you like allow this to happen. Like, why did you eat dog food? You know what I mean? Like shit like that. And I was like, well,
You
like,
can't explain it.
yeah, I'm like, I said the closest thing I can say is like, people like don't realize they're in a cult, like, because they're manipulating. I'm like, it was the same sort of thing where it's like hero worship, and you want to like be accepted, and you're vulnerable, and you're trying, like, yes, like you're being told that this is the way you achieve.
I think it's also the fear mongering part of it.
Oh,
I think that's
yes, 100%.
when you were explaining that, I'd say that that's probably the number one thing that people who are like in that sort of relapse cycle and seeking out different programs is they kind of, and AA will do this also lightly. Some groups, they'll kind of scare you into thinking this is the only way, like,
Yeah.
or you will die. Which
I
of
had to
course,
quit
like
my
no
other
one
job.
wants to die or
Yeah.
have the X thing being the worst thing possible. That I'm not saying that we shouldn't take it that seriously. Like we should take our recovery that seriously. But I think also there is sort of there's an
It's
extreme
not so black and
thinking,
white.
right? There's an
Exactly.
extreme thinking of like just throwing death at everybody,
Yeah.
and those extreme fear situations. I think is a negative
Yeah. It's
recruitment skill,
So I'm just curious to take the test just to see, because I feel stupid sometimes when people are like, well, why did you do that? I'm like, because I was like told that's what, like, that's the right thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's a slow process
Yes.
of grooming.
exactly.
And you don't realize it's happening. And there's all these different like tactics, like love bombing is a huge one where it's just like aggressive, like you're so important, you're wonderful, like I love you. Like in the program I was in, we said I love you all the time to everyone, even if I just met them. I had to like hug everyone when I like got places. There was like leaving places, and they like this program and other cults like make you feel so important so that
within that
you're
group, right?
developing
Yeah.
a dependency cycle.
Well, they normalize it too.
Gosh,
Yeah.
so crazy.
It's nuts.
Where can people find you on like the internet if you want to be found? If you want to be found.
You can find me. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Anna X Trip, like the letter X. Trip.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank
so
you.
interesting.
We need to watch that doc later.
Want to watch the doc, like for sure. And just thank you.
Thank
like
you
my
so much
mind
for
is
your time.
blown right now.
I need to sort of
Yeah.
sit on this a minute.
I know.
'cause
I
have
feel
a
like I
lot
have
of
to like
thoughts and feelings.
decompress, and I was just like not in. I just like heard someone else's like story.
I'm happy
for
that you
45
got out,
minutes.
and I'm happy that you're still sober. I think
Yes.
those are the two most
Thank you.
important
Yeah,
takeaways. Is that
congrats
like
on
you
that.
were able to sort of preserve your sobriety and make healthier choices altogether.
Yeah, it's possible, and you can break out of those things and still be like totally okay.
My God,
You know?
Love
Yeah.
it.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much for your
thanks,
time.
Anna. Talk to you
soon.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Until we meet again,
Be nice to yourself.
don't join a cult, and hangovers still suck.
They suck, and cults suck.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Every review helps other listeners find us. Music by Dead Go West. Art by Kate Sander. For show notes and resources, check out seltzersquad.com.